Boom. Good evening, everybody. We're live. We have a liftoff for our multiple streaming live stream. So we're coming out to you from, I understand we're on the YouTubes. We are also on the brand new tubes. We are, I believe, on, is it Odyssey? I think we're on as well. We're on Facebook. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. But that place which must never be named, aka, Twitter. We're everywhere but there. So anyway, you're all very welcome. Thanks very much for joining me and being part of the stream tonight. We've got super duper busy, packed agenda. So hope you enjoy that. Warm welcome to those who have already joined, being Patty, City Troll, Chris Davis. Chris, you're very welcome. Scott, hi Scott, good to see you. And John Gleason. Good to see all you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your continued support. None of this would be possible without it. So as I said, we got loads to cover. And just before we get into the meat of the meal. Hi, Darren, by the way. Good to see you in the stream as well. Before we get into the meat of the stream, let's have the aperitif, namely what you need to do. Here's the top tips. So just make sure if you're watching this, folks, you're subscribed, because sometimes naughty YouTube unsubscribes people. So make sure if you're watching it on Odyssey and brand YouTube, BitChute, YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And if you're listening on Podbean, make sure you subscribe to that as well. If you could do that, that'd be fab. All the links to my many channels are down below, not just Odyssey, BitChute, and brand YouTube, but Gab, over to Rumble. There's millions. They're down below. Go and find them. If you like what we're talking about tonight, give us a thumbs up, please. Hello, Mustang Sally. Good to see you on the stream. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. If you actually want to do something significant to support us, then go to altnewsmedia.net/donate, and there's a nice little box over there, and you can drop £1 or whatever it is, whatever you think you can do is you can drop it over there. Super chats are also available on the stream tonight. So if you want to get prominence to your comment, if you want to see your comment on the stream, that's one way to do it. So I think that's about it, isn't it? That's enough of the preamble. Who wants to hear that? You want to get to the meat of the thing? Well, I mean, there's several things I want to talk to you about. I do want to talk about climate change, because I'm sure, as you know, it is the end of the world. It's official. Our planet is on fire. We're going to come to that. Tomorrow is A-level results in England. I want to talk about that and what that means for young people. Hi, Matt. Good to see you as well. Thanks for being here. Want to talk about education. I want to talk about the what's it named? Not the llama. It's a llama-like creature. I want to talk about people out protesting about a potential animal being put down, which would be very sad, by the way. I want to talk about that and a few other things. But anyway, before we get to that, I want to talk about Paris. Now, I'm going to show you a little clip in a second. We're going to get it keyed up for you. But just before I do that, today, well, two things. Alpaca. Thanks, Patty. Alpaca. I know. We'll get on to it. I mean, this is an esoteric broadcast. We're talking at everything from fascism to alpacas. Anyway, here's on a serious note. I believe it was June 15th, 1940. When the French vacated Paris and left it to the Germans, the Nazis, to come in. And so it was, the City of Light was plunged into a darkness that lasted until liberation in the middle of 1945. Hi, Dee. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Hello, Harry, Matty. Yes, we're going to cover climate change. But anyway, this was 1940. Paris went dark, essentially. And for all those years, I'm afraid it fell, and Hitler famously went down the from the Arc de Triomphe down the Champs-Elysees. We all know about that. Anyway, that was 1940. Let's fast forward to 2021, shall we? Let's do that. And as you know, from today in France, the little tin pot tyrant Macron has initiated very, very strict COVID laws, focused around what's called the pass sanitaire, or as you and I would call it, the vaccine passport. Now that came in with vengeance today, and I wanted to show you. I mean, Jason. Hi, Jason. By the way, thanks for being here. Vichy France is unfortunately, I think, where we now are. I wonder, can we play you a really, really short video clip of what was happening in Paris today? Not in 1940 when it was occupied, but in 2021. So if we can play that, that would be cool. And here you see, the French police are going around checking on people in the open air if they've got their vax pass. You want to have a coffee? Show your pass. Do you see that? I mean, I just thought that was horrific. Hi, John Ferguson. Good to see you, by the way. I thought that was really, really horrific. You know, it is essentially papers, please. Papers, please. And any of you, and I know you people who follow me are all astute and you understand history, this is an echo of what happened in 1940. Essentially, France is now being occupied by the vax pass of Macron and his globalist compatriots around the world. And what we're seeing there, we're going to see in the UK. Don't think we're going to avoid it here, by the way. We will get the same thing. Be under no illusions. Johnson is every bit as big a tyrant as Macron, as Ardern down in New Zealand, as Trudeau, as Biden. They're all the same, these people. They're all absolutely the same. They're all following orders. Another echo of the 1940. But I thought, hi, Iber Stellar. Good to see you. This is the home for the, well, people who have been awakened. Let's put it like that. And I'm really pleased that that's the case. And, you know, I am pleased, by the way, if you're following me on my podcast channel, it's really interesting. I can look to see when you're following me on podcast, that is, who else you follow. And it's great to see people, a lot of people who follow me, seem James Dellingpole, Ivor Cummings, UK Column. It's really interesting to see the groups of people that buy into, or who are at least interested in hearing what I have to say. I feel very honored to have such great people following me. Yes, Jason, we're the home of the school of the hard knocks. Yeah, but we're going to give some knocks back. But that was Paris anyway. Great to see the French people rising up, by the way, since Bastille Day, middle of July, obviously July 14th, as the French protest and reject Macron. And let's hope these protests get bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, we need to see that. This is a battle for the liberté and égalité. I noticed Macron was trying to spin it. Oh, yeah, but fraternity means taking the you know what. Because we're on YouTube, we have to be careful what we say. But you know what? He was trying to spin that nonsense, absolute garbage. Anyway, as I say, I saw those scenes in Paris. It just reminded me of of what happened in the 1940s. And it's happening right now, folks. It's sobering. It's a serious thing to observe, to be quite honest. But anyway, let's park France for the time being, shall we? And let's move to something even worse, maybe. It's the end of the world. Yeah, it's the end of the world. I'm sure you will have seen the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change produced a new dossier today. Very, very serious dossier. And that serious dossier says that, excuse me, long story short, the Earth's going to end. It's just, we're in the last chance saloon. You people out there, you're drinking in the last chance saloon without a mask, maybe. So they've come out with this garbage, and I'm sure you've seen it across the media. Oh, the media love it. The Guardian was having an orgasm about it today. Oh my God, it's the end of it. It really is. This is serious. The planet's on fire. And I see Boris the clown has come out naturally and jumped on the bandwagon. And I saw he was mentioning, by the way, the Greek fires. Those fires we saw in Greece, and the fires we saw in Turkey. Well, of course, You will get fires in a very hot climate in the summer months. You will get that, but the timing is interesting, isn't it? Interesting timing. Okay. Hi, sorry about that one, folks. Yeah, a little bit of technical problem. I think we're back. Just testing here. We have a few techie issues, but we always get through them. We're fighting so many fronts. A little bit of tech things not going to problem. So back again, yeah. So they've been they're saying today that you're in the last chance saloon. You've been told the Earth is just teetering on the cliff edge. All right. So what do we have to do to save it then? Well, what we need to do is let's see. Well, we need to roll back our industrial society till about the 1750s, round about then, pre-industrial revolution anyway. We need to do that. We're going to have to tax you more. Taxing you more saves the planet. Making sure you don't travel very far, that saves the planet. Making sure that you can't heat your home properly, that saves the planet. Making sure we adopt an almost communist approach to life, that saves the planet. I don't think so. I think so. I think hopefully a lot of people see. Yeah, I mean, Brian makes a good point here. Brian, just bring Brian's comment up. Under a climate lockdown, governments would limit private vehicle use, ban consumption of red meat. Oh yes, meat, that's right. And impose extreme energy saving measures. Absolutely, Brian. And there is no doubt in my mind that that is all part of where we are heading. You will find that COVID and climate change narratives they sync very closely together. Let's just put it as casually as that. Under COVID, we were restricted. We couldn't travel very far. Industry was closed down. Flights were more or less stopped for many months, apart from the elite, obviously, especially if you're traveling to Barack Hussein Obama's birthday party. And then private jets all the way. Those carbon emissions are the good kind of carbon emissions, your kind of carbon emissions. If you wanted to go to Greece, actually, for that matter, or Italy or wherever, they're the bad carbon emissions that's destroying the world. So these clowns, these tenured clowns in the UN, the IPCC, they come out with this report today. In fact, actually, I think maybe we have a slide we can share with you, which would be interesting. Hi, Elaine, by the way, nice to see you on the stream and Global Hystericus. Yeah, here's a couple of intro. In fact, actually, Jed, do you want to pop on and we can have a chat about this one? Because, you know, they absolutely bore us to death with the global warming scenario. But what are these slides telling us then, Jed?
Okay, David, we hear quite often from the climate alarmists that sea levels are rising.
Yeah.
Well, I will be honest, they are rising, but they are rising naturally. But what they actually say is not the sea levels are rising, but the rise is increasing. So what you see on the left of the slide as the viewers look at it is the past 24,000 years of sea level rise. And as you can see there, it's indicated that what is natural, and you can see there it's pointed out through history. So as the last ice age ended, or the last big ice age ended, you could see there was a massive rise in sea level. Of course there was.
Yeah,
you can see, particularly over the last 6,000 years, and certainly over the last 1,000 years, those rises have been measured in millimeters rather than in feet. So all those charts are really showing is that sea level rise, and you can see what they're trying to say is man-made. It doesn't really register. But the bottom the bottom right corner, as you look at it, are the predictions from the climate alarmists from various models that they have made. And you can see there's a wide range there of what they predict to be the sea level rise. But actually, the top one shows you the measured sea level rise. Have you noticed a trend in that sea level rise? It's fluctuating and it's on a downward trend at the moment.
Yeah,
You see, I didn't lie to you. I do have other slides, David, but if you do want to jump in, I do have some other ones to debunk the myth of climate alarmists.
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, oh, by the way, hi, Miss L. Good to see you and Harry on the stream. I mean, Jed, the thing is that, in the report today, they're claiming that by the end of this century, and they've been using this one for ages. I remember 20 years ago being on the BBC talking about this. They're claiming that we could see, is it 2 meters, a 2 meter increase in sea levels could happen by the end of this century. And therefore, the Maldives would obviously vanish under the water, which is interesting because they're still building 5-star luxury hotels in the Maldives.
I'm glad you mentioned the Maldives, because it was back in the 80s that they said the Maldives would be underwater by 2000. Yeah. Then it was 2005, then 10, then 18, and it's still not. In fact, the Maldives as a set of islands are growing.
That's right. Yeah. And actually, Jed, they talk about even around the coast of the UK. Oh my God! Again, we're going to see some huge increases in sea levels. I think over the last 100 years, it's been around about 1 inch or 2 inches. It's been really minimal.
But what you've also got to bear in mind, David, is sea level. The clue is in the name, level. So the sea is at the same level across the planet.
Yeah.
Now, what you find is there are areas where they say the sea level is rising. Now, is the sea level rising or is the land sinking? Because in other areas on the planet, the sea level is declining. Now, why would that happen? Why would the sea level go down? And I'll tell you why. Because for the millions of years that the planet or parts of the planet were under tons and tons, hundreds and thousands and of tons of ice, it compressed the land. Now, in history, if we look at the planet as a whole, the gap between the end of the last major ice age and now is a very short period. So some of that land that was compressed by glaciers is no longer have glaciers, like in northern Canada, for example, and certainly up in Alaska. The land is actually now expanding upwards because there's no pressure from the ice pushing it down. So in those areas, sea level is declining. In other areas, it's rising. But like I say, in most areas where it is rising, or a measured rise, it's because the land is actually sinking.
It's interesting because I see a comment from Kim here. Hi, Kim. Welcome to the stream, by the way. Levels have actually fallen in the Maldives, which would kind of make sense. The islands have gone up a bit. And then Vicky. Hi, Vicky. Good to see you on the stream as well. Vicky makes a really interesting observation that yesterday, during the height of summer, Greenland gained enough mass to bury Central Park under 2,200 feet of ice. So, that doesn't really sound like the planet is on fire to me.
Actually, David, you've just brought in the next slide. Actually, I'm glad you did that. I'm sorry to jump it all over you, but the next one, I'll just show this. I made this for a video I posted up on A Tangled Web. Guys, you need to go and see that. There's a great blog, but I'll bring it up. Oh, here we go. Now, you can see that I've highlighted a section of the total acreage burnt within the United States. Now, very recently, they were talking about wildfires. I know there's currently wildfires in Greece, Turkey, and California.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the biggest fires ever. But actually, let's just focus in on the United States. And why do I pick the United States? Because it has the longest and the most accurate records of this kind on the planet. They started this long before any other body thought about recording things. So what they said a couple of weeks ago was there's more acreage being burnt in the United States since 1986. Now, when a climate alarmist gives you a date, such as 1986, you need to ask yourself why they picked that date. And if you can see, I've roughly marked on that chart were they talking about? So from 1986 onwards, it has been rising. But what they don't tell you is the data before that line. And they don't tell you the data is freely available on the relevant websites in the US that control this sort of data. They don't tell you the data before, and you can see there how we've come down from mortality, so millions of acres, so 50 million acres being burnt in the early 1920s through to 1940s. Yeah. And you can see how it tumbled down, and then it was steady for a period, and it's over the past 20 years started to rise. Now, why is that rise started? Because over the last 20 years, we've had eco warriors saying, oh, no, you can't go into the forest and chop trees down and manage it, clear the forest floor of bracken and things like that. You can't put fire breaks in because that's cutting trees down, and we don't want you to cut trees down. So when a fire does start, it has decades of fuel to burn on the forest floor.
Yep. Yeah, no, that all makes sense. That all makes sense. I mean, I've never bought. I mean, the thing is, I'm older. Well, probably maybe some of us on the stream will remember. But back in the 70s, they talked, Jed, about it's the ice age. The ice is going to get you. We're all going to live in an ice age, and that's it. And that's down to the way we were behaving. And that absolutely failed. That narrative failed. And then they turned it into, oh, it's a hole in the ozone layer. It's acid rain's going to get you. And that didn't happen. And then they turned it into it's global warming. It's global warming, I tell you. The planet's on fire. And then the planet stopped warming. So then it became climate change, which is the most fraudulent thing of all to me, Jed, because I suggest everyone watching this or listening this will agree that from the beginning of time, climate changes. It's what it does. It's like saying that the Earth spins on its axis. Of course it does that. And of course climate changes. But these people are trying to manipulate us, aren't they, Jed? They're really trying.
Absolutely. And here's how they're manipulating us, Dave. And I'm glad you got to that point. I was waiting for it. So as you can see on the left-hand side is the reported average temperature. And you can see there, June, July. This is the official data from the United States. And it covers 1920 to 2021. So it's for the months of June through August. And you can see there where it says reported. So as you can see, it looks like it's getting warmer. That's the reported data, which is a completely different world to the right-hand image, which is actually the same period, for the same time period, same months of the year. But that's the physical measured temperature at all the weather stations across the United States. They average it out like they always do, average it out across the states. And you can see there's a downward trend. It's actually getting colder. And why is it getting colder? Because we're entering a solar minimum. And you know that big ball of fire in the sky that the climatologists and the models don't take into account? Oh, no, the sun doesn't do anything to global temperatures, not at all. It's that big ball in the sky that causes temperatures to go up and down, and we're hitting a solar minimum. And you can see how they fraudulently cool the past and gently warm the present. And they've done that now for the past 15 to 20 years, and they've changed the past by 1.5 degrees colder, and they've increased the present by 1.5 degrees, and they've done it slowly over the past 15 or 20 years. So you get the reported temperature on the left, when the measured temperature on the right is actually what is measured by the thermometer on every single weather station in the United States.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, Chris Davis actually makes a really good point on the stream as well, Jed, that only climate scientists that toe the line get the funding. In fact, that's absolutely the case. If you want to get funding nowadays in this area, you daren't be a skeptic or a challenger. And of course, the essence of good science is you always must challenge and look at things different perspectives.
But you see, David, it's not just climate scientists that get the funding if they support the climate alarmist theory. You can be doing research in any subject whatsoever, and they all have to have an element of climate change embedded in them, and it must be in support of the climate alarmists. So I could be doing a study on plastics and how plastics change over time.
Yeah.
Or whatever, anything. But I have to include a segment that is focused on climate change. Otherwise, I will not get funded.
Yeah. Oh, it's pernicious the way they've done it, you know. But the other thing is, the media have absolutely spun this one out. We've got the likes of Greta Thunberg, we've got David Attenborough, we've got these, as you said, Jed, climate alarmists. I mean, they're peak climate alarmists, actually. And every word is treated as if it's the scientific gospel. And that's the problem. It's become a matter of faith. It's not about science.
It is, David. You're right. It's faith. It's not science, because science is always questioned. And if you can't question science, then it becomes a faith. It's a belief.
Well, I mean, as Jason also points out here on the stream, Jed, I mean, we've had David Bellamy, who many people may remember, who was very popular in TV on the BBC at one point. But what David Bellamy was, he actually questioned the whole issue of global, so-called alleged global warming, and he lost his career in the back of it, and sadly he passed away.
Anybody who does that questions it. I mean, we had a report last week, didn't we, on the news saying it was the hottest week in July ever.
Yeah, it always is.
Unfortunately, those that were born in the 70s will know that in 1976 we had a 5 to 6 week period where we was in the mid to high 30s every single day for 5 to 6 weeks. Not 1 week, not just a couple of days in a week. And I think we only topped, 31, 32 the other week?
Yeah.
It was still less than 1976. But what they play on is you forget what happened so many years ago. You'll only remember really what happened last summer. Last summer was a bit, well, May was good, but apart from that, the summer was naff. And they hope you forget. They hope you don't go and look.
No, but then they also give the game away, Jed. You mentioned about when they give you a date, you should look back beyond that date. And whenever I hear, that's an excellent observation. I like to think about when they say this is the warmest it's been, or the wettest, or whatever, since 1750 or whatever. Then my observation is, well, okay, back in 1750. What was making it so warm or so wet? Or so
exactly, whatever? David. You're spot on. But they will always pick a date, normally within the 80s, because as you mentioned, in the 70s they said we were going into an ice age, and that's where the theory of CO2 was first thought. And the scientists that came up with it said maybe, but I can't prove it. Maybe if there was more CO2 in the atmosphere, it would warm up. Yeah, but I can't really prove that. Now, what you're going to bear in mind is CO2 makes up 0.04% of the atmosphere.
That's right.
95% of the atmosphere is water vapor. Now, they say, well, we're producing or we're making more CO2. There's two things about CO2. There is only a set amount of CO2 on this planet. It's either in the air, in the ocean, or in the ground. So if we burn coal, we release it as a gas. It goes into the sky, it condenses, it ends up in the ocean. It then and it's absorbed by plants. Plants die, thousands of years, they become coal. It's a cycle. There is no more CO2 on this planet now than there were 50 billion years ago. So that's one thing. But why CO2? Well, if you think of the Industrial Revolution and everything that's happened since that, what is the one byproduct of every single thing that has advanced this planet over the past 100 years?
Well, carbon dioxide, yeah.
Carbon dioxide, there you go. So we get back to the communist thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Well, absolutely. But just on the communist thing, here's a thought that I noticed Boris Johnson today said. I think he came out saying, well, because as we know, I mean, to please his wife, he's gone completely down the green eco wacko route, and he says, well, we need to close down all our coal such remaining coal power stations that we have, coal burning stations have to all be closed down. And I thought to myself, hey, Boris, are you going to have a word with Xi Jinping down China way? Because as far as I know, the Chinese have been building new coal-powered power stations on a weekly basis. And
No, on a daily basis.
On a daily,
yeah, daily basis.
And they have no intention of stopping that. So again, if we go down this route, in a way, we are subjugating ourselves to communist China, because those guys aren't going to be doing anything anywhere near the near future. But it's like we're cutting our own energy throats, which is really
course we are, David. And that is, in theory, the plan. The United Kingdom has reduced its CO2 emissions over the past decade by 37. I think it was 37.5%.
Yes, big amount. Yeah.
Yeah, a big amount, which actually makes us, out of the global production of CO2, 1%. So we could stop every single emission today, and we'll only change the output by 1%. Yeah. Now, that's right. That comment there, CO2 is a lifeline. John, it is, because CO2 is taken in by green plants and is photosynthesized, and those plants give out oxygen. That is the nature of life. Now, since the increase of CO2, so we're now just above 400 particles per million within the atmosphere, what you will find is the greenification of the planet. Now, NASA, who also give out false statistics on this,
they do.
NASA did a big report a few years ago saying, oh, look, all this CO2 is causing the greenification of the planet. Now, what's the benefit of greenification of the planet? Well, everything is greener. There are more plants. They grow better. They grow faster. They produce more fruit and more produce. And they give off more oxygen. So why would you want to stop that process? Because what they actually want us to do is to go back to 1930s or 1940s, something like that, where we was below 350 parts per million. Well, if you go that low and you go through the temperature records and the adverse weather and you name it, all the things that they bring out, we had a worse time then, planet-wide, for weather events, for cold weather, you name it, than we've ever had.
Yeah.
The more CO2 we've had, actually, the better we have been generally. And if you watch Tony Heller on YouTube, he is brilliant. He put some brilliant videos together, and that's where I got those slides from. He put some great clips together, and he just spells it out in plain English for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Scott Peacock makes a good point. He's talking about pollution is much more of a problem than CO2, and I think he's absolutely right. And
I disagree.
Well, I don't know. If you look at China, if you look at some of the pollution in Chinese cities, that doesn't look very, very healthy.
No, I understand that, David. But generally, within the Western Hemisphere, within the West, I would say actually the air quality has improved dramatically over the last 100 years. If you think of the smog in London that was killing people on a daily basis, we don't have smog like that anymore. Yes, I want cleaner air. Of course, I want cleaner air. But I think we're picking bones at what is reasonably cleaner compared to what, when I was growing up, certainly, when I was born in the 60s and 70s, it's 1,000 times cleaner.
Of course it is, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think the main pollution is not in the West. It's in the East, if you want to be particular about it. And it is particularly in China, but
China, in India. But you see, what we've also done, and just so everybody's clear on this, we've gone through that revolution, the industrial revolution, where we found coal and we powered ourselves to where we are now. Just remember that those Western countries that want to control you with climate alarmist claptrap also want to hold back the third world countries from going through the same process and developing. They are literally introducing policies to stop the development of the third world in the same way that we did.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, but ultimately the solution seems to be anyway to all of this to raise taxes. I kind of don't quite understand how raising taxes on people, Jed, has any impact whatsoever in terms of the Earth's.
Well, you see, if you're Al Gore, you want taxes to raise, because what I can do then is I own all the carbon credits. Because when I started this, I'm speaking as Al Gore now. When I started this 20 years ago, you remember, with that fake book, that fake movie that was banned from schools because it was so wrong. He came up with the carbon credits. And he'll sell you the carbon credits so you can produce as much carbon as you want. And then that cost will then be passed on to the products that people buy, and so on and so forth. It's a tax on everybody, and the only person that wins is Al Gore.
Oh, they're all scamsters. Although, interestingly, I'm sure you saw Obama's birthday party, his 60th
I did.
party, at Martha's Vineyard. And did you notice that Obama has bought that huge mansion, which is pretty much at sea level, Jed? So
they all have, David.
Strange.
The ocean is beautiful. It's beautiful to live by the ocean. David, I live by the ocean. Unfortunately, I can't see it from where I live because there's houses. But I live by the ocean, and it's beautiful, David. Wouldn't you like to live by the ocean?
Well, as you know,
sometimes you're not far off, because where you live, you're not far from the ocean anyway. But isn't it nice? Yeah.
Yeah,
but why would I buy one by the ocean if I know that sea levels are going to? Because they're not.
Because they're not. That's right. In fact, Jed, it's like something else which we can't talk about in this platform, where they know it's a scam, but they're going to carry on. And that's where these two things come together, which we can't talk about. So
it's literally about control, because what they will do. Now, here we go. I'll be called a conspiracy theorist, but the documents actually exist. UN Agenda 21 is designed. With all of the smart cities, and they're trying to push you to electric vehicles. Well, electric vehicles aren't going to get you, across the country or up and down the country on a regular basis. Well, you don't need that, because part of Agenda 21 is to put you in smart cities where you have communal cars, where like you would book a taxi. Well, you'd book a car and it would turn up by itself, because it'd drive itself, and it'd drive you to where you want to go. You get out and somebody else gets in. Because the idea is to put you in the smart city, and everything in that smart city or smart town. I appreciate not everybody lives in a city, but you then would never have to go outside it. There would be transit routes, for example, transit route between Manchester and Birmingham, and you couldn't go either side of that transit route, because everything else will be given back to nature and be allowed to wild. And it will be illegal for you to go into those areas. Illegal to go to the countryside.
It's a fascinating subject, this. We could probably do the whole show on this, but I want to move it on but in a minute. But, maybe actually what we need to do, Jed, is maybe we need to do another program just focusing on into the detail on some of this, because there's no doubt in my mind, and I'm sure from what you say, I think you're the same, that there's a massive scam being played on people, and it's a deplorable scam. It's the same people who are scamming in another very popular topic at the moment, and they've got the media on board, they've got them all on board, and what we need to do is provide people with, as you've done so well there, Jed, just factual data, and then people can make their own minds up. Like everything I try to do, I sort of say to people, well, here's data, and then you can interpret that as you see fit. But anyway,
I agree.
So I see some of the comments here. Hi, Andrew, by the way, good to see you in the stream, and John as well. Listen, Jed, I wanted to move on just for a moment to talk about tomorrow. Sometimes it's good to get ahead of the curve. So tomorrow, I believe, is the day that the A-level results for England come out. And as you know, the forecast is that they're going to be the best ever A-levels ever, even though nobody sat them, because teachers just have provided grades, just like last year. So this is the second year of a bastardized education system, dumbed down, and warped out of all proportions. And a lot of these young kids, I mean, it's so wicked, really, because they're being Jed told, look at this, you've got 17 A's, A pluses, best ever, you're the smartest kids ever. And then off they tootle to university, where they do their degrees, many of them in gender studies, political studies, underwater basket weaving studies, whatever it is. And that's such a fraud. The universities are in on it because they want the cash. The teachers are in on it because they want their bonuses. And the people who lose out are kids, Jed. And so I said this in a podcast I did earlier today, and maybe some people have heard it, but I do believe this. I'm not saying people shouldn't go to university, but I do think that the numbers going in the UK are silly. Tony Blair is to blame. We need to cut them in, not just in half, but we need to reduce the number of kids going to uni by about, in my view, about 80% or so. But back in the days when I went, it was roughly 10% of the population went. And that seemed more or less okay. Now maybe that's even too many. But it's a con, just like the climate thing is a con. The education thing, Jed, I think is a con. What do you think?
It is a con, and I'll tell you why. Now, you just mentioned the A-level results. So you grade people. So throughout your life, whether it's school, whether it's work, you are graded. Yeah. So let's say we grade them A, B, C, D, and E. Now, if everybody is getting a grade A, then that makes grade A worthless.
Yep.
Because nobody's getting a B, nobody's getting a C, nobody's getting a D, and very few people get an E. So we've made the grading system irrelevant. And so much so, the universities this week or last week were saying that because there are so many people now with A and A stars, they can't trust it. So they're now setting entrance exams before they will give you a uni place. Now, the grading system was there to say, yes, this pupil is an A or an A star. They are brilliant. And we got in our school 5 A stars, and the rest got B's, C's, D's, and E's, or whatever the grading system is. And they are our cream. And the university got, wow, we want that cream off the top. But when all of the milk is cream, then there's nothing to choose from. You've lost your choice. So then the universities are now setting entrance exams. Now, I agree with you. When people used to go to university in the 60s, 70s, early 80s, and maybe even into the 90s, it was the select few. Now it's the masses. Now you can say, what's a good thing? But it's not. Because all you do is, if I have somebody who's got, and I don't know very much about university, but whatever the top grade in university is, whatever that might be.
First.
A first. So somebody gets a first, which is great. So if you get 2 or 3 people get a first, then they are the cream of the cream. But we go back to the same process. If we get 50 that have got a first, then that first is weakened by 50 times. So we get 1,000 that have got a first, it's weakened by 1,000 times. You see what I'm getting at? It's the same thing with the grading system for A level. If everybody gets an A, it's worthless. If everybody gets a first, it's worthless.
Well,
because everybody's got the same.
Well, I can remember back to my A level results, which were a long time ago, and I went to a grammar school back in the days when there was proper grammar schools. But even in that grammar school, Jed, the number of people getting a grade A, it wasn't very many. You know, I mean,
that's the point.
You had to work really. I remember you had to slog so hard to get an A, and so you know you were lucky if you got. Well, you probably deserved it actually if you got an A. But over the decades, I've seen that become, as you've just said, meaningless. Because everyone's coming out with A's. So an A in 2021 doesn't mean anything, but it actually means even less because they never actually did the exams. No, because the government's done away with exams for certainly 2 years anyway, and that's
absolutely precedent. The other point to this is, David, not only now do we have a grading system, whether it's school or university, which mean nothing because so many people get that grade.
Yeah.
What we also have is a tax. the tax of going to university.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, you could say, well, if they don't, don't earn an X amount before X amount of years, then it's written off. Well, it's not written off. It's written off for the individual. It's not written off for the taxpayer who funds it.
Correct.
So when you went and it was 10% of the population and they'd say, well, uni was free then. Yes, because we were funding the cream of our society. Now, those that are pre-uni tuition are asking us to fund the majority of society, because the majority now go, well, almost the majority now.
Yeah, it's around 50%, yeah. It's close enough.
So therefore, you want us to fund the majority. And again, we're back to the same principle that you've just weakened whatever course you're doing. And whatever the cost is, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, it's irrelevant, because when you come out and there's 10,000 people with that grade in that subject, you're fighting with 10,000 people for that job. So one will get it, or let's say 100 get it, and 999,000 will end up flipping burgers at McDonald's, thinking, why am I now in 50 grand's worth of debt, 4 years in university, and I'm flipping burgers in McDonald's? Nothing wrong with flipping burgers, but there is if you paid £50,000 and spent 4 years at uni.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, also, Elaine Jennings makes a very good point that the problem is, even when these kids tomorrow, when they get their A-level results and they head off in September, October to university, then they're going to what is essentially little factories for producing Marxists, because our universities have fallen. They've fallen to the radical left. And certainly in the humanities and some of these other areas within uni, these are cesspits of leftism. So you get a sensible 18-year-old going to uni in September, October, Jed, and by June of next year, by the end of first year, they'll have become little, communist ideologues wanting to bring down the system. So there's that problem as well. And another problem is the universities. I wanted to say this. I went to a university called Queen's University Belfast. It's one of the Russell Group. So it's one of the, in these terms, one of the elite universities. I'm ashamed of it. I'm disgusted by it. I wish it was closed down, because it could not be more woke. It could not be more leftist, and it could not have more Chinese money flowing through it, Jed. There's 3 good reasons why that university in 2021 is unrecognizable to the one that I went to all those years ago. So and I feel sorry for kids. I saw, actually, Billy Piper made a comment on the stream that I saw, and he said that only people going to uni to study the STEM subjects should be taxpayer funded, and that's not a that's a good idea, Billy Piper. I kind of would go with you in that one there.
I think that the core subjects like STEM, I think, should be funded by the taxpayer. People say, oh, well, I'm good studying as being a doctor, and therefore why should I pay because I'm going to be in the NHS? No. Stop. You're going to university to get your doctor's degree or whatever it is. And when you come out, you will become a doctor. Yes, you'll go through a hard time being, a junior doctor. But as you progress through your career and you end up as a GP on £120,000 a year,
that's right.
With a pension of £60,000 a year when you retire, that is where you reap the benefits of the hard slog you did during university and the cost of that university. So the swings and roundabouts there. You can't say, well, you should pay for me because I'm going to be a lifesaver, and then when we pay for you, you still reap the benefits from the taxpayer by becoming a GP on £120,000 a year. You can't you can't have both. You can't have here you go, David. You can't have your cake and eat it.
No, you can't.
There's a price to pay for everything that we do in this life.
Well, that's right. That which is a reality that leftists run away from, because they think that there are no consequences for things that they do. But I think also, like Pete says here, universities are all too happy to suck up Chinese money. This is the problem. And City Troll makes a point, Jed, that the universities are also giving away our research. It's going back to China. This is I mean, the infiltration of our academic structure, but particularly university level, by China is immense. It is absolutely immense and very, very, very dangerous. But
my hometown, David, used to have Bolton Technical College, and it was I wouldn't say it was middle of the road. It was up at the higher levels of education as a technical college. But I'll just give you a picture. You could walk around it in about 6 minutes.
Okay.
Bolton University, as it is now, covers half of the town centre. A lot of the cotton mills that surrounded it, which were all sorts of factories that after the cotton mills had finished, are now all accommodation. They've built brand new accommodation. They've knocked down dozens and dozens of old 70s housing estates and built mass halls and accommodation and all sorts of facilities. It dwarfs the town centre now. And why? Because they can have as many people as they like at university now. Why? Because they're being funded by the taxpayer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much wrong. But tomorrow morning, you're going to see the headlines, folks, and Jed. You're going to see all the happy, smiling kids opening their letter, opening their their qualifications. What have they got? And this will be hailed as, and the politicians are in the con job as well. They'll hail it. The teachers will all slap each other in the back saying what a great job they've done. And in my view, what they've done is they're betraying the very children they're supposed to have been educating, except they haven't for the past year and a half. And then that betrayal continues on into...
You're absolutely right, David. It's been a betrayal for the past 20, 30 years of our children. My lad's over in Japan at the moment. He's studying Japanese language and Japanese culture.
Yeah.
Now he's hoping to be a Japanese tourist information person that can speak English and fluent Japanese, of course. And he's due back in the UK in September, and then he goes straight back to Sheffield to do his final year, his fourth year.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, he went to university late, and I'll say late. When I returned back from forces, back from Germany, he did 1 year as sixth form, and then he got a course at uni doing psychology. But unfortunately, it was one of those that was close, so he could travel. And he just didn't. He did a year, and he dropped it, and he went and worked at Sainsbury's for 5 years. And he said when he came up with this one, and he's got stuck in, and he's had A stars, or stars, or whatever the grading is, throughout his coursework and stuff. And he sees all these youngsters, because he's obviously older than them now by a good few years, And he says to them, when they're in their first year and they're going, oh, well, I don't like this course, and I wish I. And he said, what you should have done was left school, got a job, worked out what you wanted to do with your life, then went to university. He said, I now know the course I've chosen is the right course for me, will benefit me, and will benefit my career that I want to do. He said, at 18, I hadn't got a clue what I wanted to do. And that's one of the other problems that we have, forcing kids from school straight into university. They're paying for courses that they really don't understand, really don't know that that's what their life is going to turn out to be. And a lot of them sack it after the first year or the second year, end up with the debt, but no qualification.
Yeah, it's a sobering thing. But anyway, I just wanted to finish, Jed. I wanted to talk about, well, I didn't really want to talk about Geronimo the Alpaca, but I am going to talk about Geronimo the Alpaca. Some of you may have seen this story. It relates to this, it's a group of alpacas, but there's one of them, Geronimo, who is apparently tested twice for bovine tuberculosis. And there's this whole thing about it, they're going to put him down or not, or whatever. And what I saw, Jed, was this. I saw there was a group of about 30 people went to London to protest to save Geronimo the Alpaca. And it made me think to myself, and the BBC covered this. It's in their news coverage today. Meanwhile, I saw a big crowd of people outside one of the BBC's offices today protesting against the BBC. There looked to be hundreds of people. Maybe you saw the clips, Jed, and the BBC didn't cover it. So isn't it strange? The BBC could find the coverage for Geronimo the Alpaca, and they couldn't find the coverage of hundreds of British citizens outside their very doors, basically shouting, "Shame on you, shame on you." It's on social media, folks. If you check out my social media, you'll see some of the clips on this one. But, you know, the BBC never ceases to disgust me, essentially, because here it is choosing very carefully so 30 people rock up to protest about an alpaca. It's really newsworthy. Hundreds of people come to protest against the BBC, Jet. Doesn't even appear. Never happened.
David, why are you surprised? The BBC is no longer in the business of delivering fair and balanced news. It is not. It hasn't been for 20 years. What it is an activist network paid by the UK taxpayer by force. Remember that. It's theft.
Yep, that's right. Yeah,
is theft. Okay. And why is it, just very quickly, why is it theft? Because taking money that you have not earned by force is theft. That's the definition of theft. And that is taxation. And that is the TV license. It's theft. It's theft from the British public to feed them whatever the BBC thinks they should know. And it's only what the BBC think you should know, not what you should know. And there is a big difference there.
Yeah. No, the BBC is one of the great cancers at the heart of British society, British culture, British broadcasting. They are toxic.
It's a cancer that's going to be cut out very soon, David, because there are thousands upon thousands of people cancelling their TV licenses.
Yeah, the actual stats, Jed, because this is something I've done some work on over the years. From about 2012 on, so almost the last 10 years, let's call it, the BBC have been losing between 700,000 and 1 million per year in terms of license payers. So, you know, that's significant. That has been hitting them hard. And that's why they've been scrambling to find other ways to get revenue coming in. Because remember, they get 3.8 billion a year. But 3.8 billion a year, Jed, doesn't provide for one camera outside their own bloody offices. Not even one camera to be able to show a mass of people shouting, "Shame on you." And this is the problem because, you know, the BBC...
With the statue outside that was made by the paedophile.
Yes. They have, indeed. Yeah. Oh, what a coincidence! I'm sure that's.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jimmy Savile. Oh, sorry. Did that come out?
Oh, Jimmy Savile.
Right. Did Jim fix it for you, David?
He didn't. The only thing Jim was.
But the story was about the alpaca, David, wasn't it? So the alpaca, should the alpaca be? And I've heard the term today, executed. When we talk about animals being killed. Yeah. In that way, we talk about them being put down.
Yes.
We talk about humans being executed and animals being put down.
Yeah.
So, very curious that they were using this alpaca is going to be executed. No, it's not. It's going to be put down because it's disease ridden.
Yeah.
There you go. So, why shouldn't we? Any other animal with TB, we will put down.
But they're cute. Alpacas are cute.
All right, okay. And the lefties can jump on the bandwagon, can't they?
If you get TB, at least you've got it from a cute animal, Jed. Don't be a Nazi.
Oh, did you know?
Hi, Donny girl. Sorry, just wanted to say
cattle.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I wanted to say hello to Donny girl. Just wanted to say that, Jed. Before
sorry, David. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cattle with TB cannot pass it on to humans. You know one animal that can pass it on to humans?
Alpacas?
Alpaca. It was on Talk Radio today. I know you don't listen to Talk Radio, David, because of the 10-minute question from Julia Hartley Brewer for a 30-second answer. And every other sentence is she's had her 2 jabs. But Matt Graham's all right.
Had 2 jabs? Has Julia Hartley Brewer had 2 jabs?
Oh, have you not heard? She's not.
I haven't heard.
No, hang on. Newsflash, everybody, just so you're all aware, just so we're all aware on the stream. Not only has Juliette Le Brewer had COVID, but she's also had both her jabs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. So you must do what she's done. You must get COVID first. Then you've got to get your 2 jabs. Then you've got to, every other sentence, mention that you got your 2 jabs. Okay?
Yeah. As well as pointing out the fact you've complied with every aspect of the government tyranny. You've been a good girl. You've worn your mask. You've done your social distancing. You've got your NHS app on your phone. And then, Jed, what you have to do is complain about it. That's
but hang on, David. After you've gone through all that, what you then need to do is go on holiday, come back, spend a week in the office, and then get pinged to be told that you need to isolate for another 6 days. Yeah, because somebody on the plane tested positive. Even though you've had it, you've had the 2 jabs, you came back and tested negative, you've still got to isolate. What a clown world we now live in.
Well, I think on that note of clown world, and your view that Geronimo needs to go to the execution squad. On that tragic note, I think we're going to wrap things up, Jed. So, listen, thanks everybody for being on the stream with us tonight. Thanks for all your comments. They're always a pleasure to read. So thank you for the good-natured comments and the shrewd comments as well. Thank you very much, Jed, for being on the stream as well, folks. Do make sure, as I said, that you're subscribing to all the other channels that we've talked about, and I should point out podcast. But don't forget also, folks, that there's a Tangled Web, which is a website that Jed and City Troller put a huge amount of work into, and it's in the link. You can see it just going across the screen. Loads and loads of content there. Stay away from the mainstream media. It's toxic. They only spew out deceits and half truths. At least we try to give you something a bit different. So look, that's it from me for tonight. Thank you all very much. And you'll catch me on the old podcast channel tomorrow and back here on YouTube and my other video platforms very, very soon as well. Thanks, Jed. Thanks, everyone. Catch up soon. Night all.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Goodbye.